Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. In our first story, we meet an intern who thought she could coast through her job, showing up late, gossiping, and peacing out exactly at 6 p.m. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. She thought she could slack off. Manager gave her a harsh reality check. I used to be an intern at a bank while I was pursuing my diploma, and on paper, the working hours were supposedly your typical 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., but people usually either came late and stayed late or came early and stayed late. There was a colleague of mine, Denise, who had to come all the way from Malaysia every morning just to get to work in Singapore. There was an unofficial agreement with her boss that she was allowed to enter the office at any time since she was never sure what time she could reach her workplace depending on traffic. This was fine since she usually reached at 12 p.m. and stayed until at least 8 p.m. just like everyone else, and staying past 11 p.m. was the norm here. Just like most people, her day can't start without a cup of coffee, and she would get one no matter what time she reached. No one had any issues with her coming in late at all until another intern came. Let's call the intern Jane. Now, Jane was the kind of person who hated coming to work early and loved to go home the moment the hand on the clock hit 6. Honestly, so do we, but we don't do it. She loved to gossip with her other colleagues and friends, as well as getting to work at 10 a.m. without any valid reason, with a layer of makeup so thick you could probably slap her and leave a handprint. Other colleagues had already submitted multiple complaints regarding her coming to work late, and her manager was already pissed and sent Jane an email. She was not to come to work late anymore, or her internship would be considered null and void, along with a mention to her supervisor that she would fail that semester as our internship was graded. All of us were on a Teams meeting when she received that email, which led to her outburst. Jane: "Manager, why can Denise come to work late but I can't? Just because she's a full-time employee doesn't mean she doesn't have to follow the rules." Manager: "All right, in that case, you get to follow her work schedule then." Jane: "Okay, sure." At this point, all of us were amused but horrified by what that entailed, because as interns, we had to send a morning report to our school from our work email at 11 a.m. sharp in the morning with no exceptions. Imagine her surprise when she remembered this the next day and even took a taxi down to rush her report and tried to leave work at 6 p.m., but was reminded by the manager she could only leave at 11 p.m. It didn't take too long for her to realize that when the manager said to follow her, Denise's work schedule, she meant the staying late part as well. This meant that Jane had to report to work from 10:45 a.m. and could only leave when Denise does at 11 p.m. Hell, I'll never forget her face when she panicked and tried to call up our manager but was denied resuming her previous working hours as per the verbal agreement, which everyone heard the day before. This continued for roughly a week, with Jane looking wearier and wearier as time went by from coming in an hour later, but only being allowed to leave work 5 hours later. Thankfully, she apologized by then, and our manager was nice enough to let her resume with the actual working hours. Throughout the rest of my time there as an intern, she was always punctual and even worked late sometimes. I left before Jane did, and she did eventually become a better person, didn't gossip as much anymore, and was a lot more well-mannered. We added each other on Instagram and still keep in touch. Internships are a weird thing. It's basically slave labor, and the fact they put you at a company that has such a poor culture that working to 11 p.m. each night is normal just makes it even worse. Thank God most countries don't have internships. And our second story. She demanded I keep paying her bills. I had the misfortune of partnering with terrible disaster of a woman on a project where we would split the work and then split the profit after the software was produced. I'd worked with a woman on another project that had been really annoying due to her chronic procrastination, but we got it to market eventually. I needed to produce yet another project out for the sake of my income, so I reluctantly made the mistake of working with her again. I figured I could protect myself from all the pitfalls we had last time by covering everything in the contract and putting penalties in place. She didn't care if she breached a contract, she only cared if it affected her financially. This time she had to bring in another person to handle the work she'd procrastinated on so badly last time, or I wouldn't work with her. Things seemed to start off well. During the milestone meeting, she reported everything was on schedule. Then the next phase started, and she needed to upload all the work to our server. We're a small company, so we use a subscription service for our server. I paid for her subscription to the same server so she could get her work up. The server is very useful for collaboration on huge projects, and I know she used the server for her own projects in addition to the one we collaborated on. Whatever. I go to check the work that's turned in, and it's just one item that's less than a third done, and just blank files with the file names of what she was supposed to have done? WTF. I asked her why all this work she'd confirmed at the milestone meetings wasn't finished. She tried to claim it was done, she just needed to organize it. Days passed, it's done, but my internet capped my data and I can't put it up. It's done, but it's on my work computer. Tomorrow for sure. Then finally, the person quit, and what you have is all he did. She was trying to get work out of him without paying for it, I found out later, and he bailed after doing that small amount I got. So in addition to being a lazy procrastinator, I learned she was a liar, cheats her workers, and she put the whole project and the thousands of dollars I'd put into it in jeopardy. I had to hire my own person and pay for him myself to get this project done. She was useless. She still kept a majority of her share minus some penalties because that was the only way I could get her to agree to let me take over that part of it and never get the project done. Finally, the software launched and I was done with her forever. I told her I was canceling her subscription to the server. If she wanted it, she should put her credit card on it to pay for it from now on. Why would you cancel that? I thought I could continue using it and have all my other work on there. Go ahead and continue using it, just pay for it yourself. This is a lot of money in my country. Could you keep paying for it? No. Why not? This is how she was. She had no shame. She felt she could get whatever she wanted if she just harassed people so much that they would eventually just cave to her. And unfortunately, I'd had to cave to her in the past for the sake of the project, so she figured I'd do it again. I refused to engage further on this and told her to take her stuff off the server or pay for the subscription herself. Well, I'm not changing the credit card because I didn't know you would cancel it on me. I need at least 6 more months. I didn't engage with her. I had used a virtual card that I could turn on and off because I knew better than to trust her to cancel the service. Also, this ensured she couldn't use the card anywhere else. I shut the card off. The next month, I can't get any of my files from the server. What's going on? You couldn't even give me another month? I'm never going to work with her again. I'm finished working with her now. I blocked her, then had to block her email too because she wouldn't give up. Pay for your own server subscription. What a train wreck. You gave her a second chance. Many wouldn't have, even though they demand such for themselves. She still had to go mess around. Well, I won't say the term F around and find out. She'll never come to the realization that her deeds did this. And our last story. HOA queen crashed into my car, then tried to blame me. I'm 23 and I live in what used to be my grandfather's house, a beautiful old place tucked into a historic district of our city. After my mom passed, she left the home to me. It's got charm, history, and creaky floorboards that seem to hum with memories. It's the kind of house people slow down to take photos of. A dream, really. Unfortunately, it also came with an HOA. And within that HOA lived Deborah, the reigning queen of nonsense, drama, and community standards. Self-elected president, unopposed naturally, for the last decade, Deborah took her title very seriously. She didn't just enforce rules, she created them, seemingly overnight, then emailed them out in Comic Sans with urgent in the subject line. I was once written up for having non-neutral flower pots. As the youngest homeowner by a couple of decades, I was basically a glitch in the matrix of her retirement fantasy. Deborah treated me like a roach infestation in her restoration project, one she was legally obligated to tolerate but deeply offended by. The real trouble started one afternoon while I was pulling into the narrow alley behind my house. The only way to access my driveway, I always crawl through it at 5 p.m., careful not to even breathe too loud, lest I violate some imaginary soundscape ordinance. As I inch forward, Deborah suddenly reverses straight out of her own driveway and slams into my car. I stop, stunned. Before I can even ask if she's okay, she goes full Karen. "What the hell were you doing? Didn't you see me? You always speed through here with your music blaring." First of all, my stereo was broken, had been for months. The only thing playing in my car was the sound of my own existential dread. She spends the next 30 minutes flailing around the alley, rallying other neighbors like it's a one-woman HOA tribunal. She tells everyone who'll listen that I'm reckless, a threat to the community, and completely disrespectful of established homeowners. Then the police show up. Deborah immediately tries to hijack the scene, barking over the officer as he attempts to take my statement. She gets so out of hand that the cop, clearly over it, asks her twice to go back inside. She finally storms off in a cloud of indignation and expired Chanel No. 5. The officer turns to me and deadpan says, "We get calls from her often." Luckily, there were witnesses who confirmed I was driving slowly and that she backed into me. The cop reassured me I wasn't at fault and that there wouldn't be any issues moving forward. But Deborah wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, I got slapped with every HOA violation she could dig up. Trash can out an hour early, weeds in the backyard, a single dandelion, my porch light was too bright, and apparently my car ruined the historical ambiance of the alley. She was on a warpath, and I was public enemy number 1. And then, 2 months later, a for sale sign appeared in her yard. I don't know if it was the car accident, the neighbor gossip that followed, or the realization that her reign of tyranny was being side-eyed by everyone else too. But just like that, the Deborah era ended. The alley's been quiet ever since. I still get the occasional passive-aggressive glance from one of Deborah's old cronies, but I'm not going anywhere. This house has been in my family for generations, and it's mine now, and I plan on keeping my non-neutral flower pots on full display. Just like that, the HOA queen retires her crown. Whether it was embarrassment, community backlash, or just sheer pettiness burnout, we may never know. All I know is OP stood her ground, kept the house, kept the flower pots, and now lives in peace while Deborah's probably yelling at clouds somewhere else. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.